Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everyone? It's Geoff Mosher. It's Adam Caplan, and we have arrived at the end of Eagles training camp, and this is the time for our annual 53-man roster prediction show. This should be an interesting one. Adam, we talked, before we recorded this show, we were just kind of spitballing some things as we both did our 53-man roster prediction, and it sure seems like this year is really complicated to do because of the injuries, because enough guys are hurt to the point where they're probably not going to be ready for the opener, but they might be ready in a week or two or three after, so you don't put them on IR. So you have to have them on the roster, but you also have to have reinforcements on the roster. So that kind of complicates how you put together a 53-man roster.
Yeah, this is the hardest I could remember in years. You know, as we speak here Thursday morning, folks. I mean, I thought if you would have asked me 2 weeks ago, I think I can get this in 15 minutes. I had a pretty good idea, but Geoff just nailed it. They have so many injuries on both sides of the football. Some are short-term, just day-to-day muscle strains, and then more, and some are longer. And the problem is you don't want to go ahead. Like for instance, we'll get into this, but just to give you an example. Mm-hmm. Defensive end, if I'm the Eagles, I don't want to keep 7 guys. But you have 2 guys who are hurt. Now, they'll have some options. They could put Avery on IR, maybe. Who knows when he'll be able to contribute. But the fact of the matter is they've got numbers issues now because of injuries. So this is not the easiest thing to do, I could tell you.
Yeah, same issue at wide receiver. You don't want to keep 7, but you do have 2 right now that are hurt with Alshon and Jalen Reagor. So we'll get into that. We'll get into the injuries, too. We have a few updates on some of the guys who have been out. I want to remind everybody, go to InsideTheBirds.com, sign up for our newsletter. You'll get all of our information on Inside the Birds content, be it our podcast, be it our YouTube channel, any live events that we might be doing, and we are trying to put together some things to do for the season. So just make sure you're staying abreast of all Inside the Birds information. So go to our website, go all the way down to the bottom on the left side, sign up for our newsletter. It's free. You will enjoy it. And, Adam, you and I are going to try to do something perhaps creative on Saturday, which is the cut-down day to the 53-man roster. I'll just say stay tuned. Follow Adam on Twitter, @KaplanNFL. Follow me, @Geoff Mosher NFL. Follow our Inside the Birds Twitter, @InsideBirds, because we're going to try to do a show or something that's a little bit more of a live format where we're looking into that now. Mm-hmm. If not, we will do a show and have it up, immediately on our YouTube channel pretty soon after the cuts are announced, and we'll have all of the analysis. So I look forward to doing that. It should be pretty fun.
Well, good intel too. We'll have, because I have a pretty good idea where what's going to happen with most of these players. Mm-hmm. But they're like 5 or 6 where you go, okay, did I do this in pencil? Because I need to erase this one. I don't think this one. Because I could just imagine, as much fun as I was having doing it, and I'm doing it also some other teams where I have some pretty good intel, but I can imagine like front offices, because if you have drafted players, you're like, okay, this guy's doing well, this guy's not doing well. Do we keep him or do we not keep him? It's got to be a tough call. I mean, it's not easy to cut guys that you like, but there's so many issues now with injuries with this football team, and that whatever you thought was an easy call, Geoff, is not as easy as you once thought because of the challenges now.
You know what another challenge is, I thought, just from a coaching and personnel staff standpoint, Adam, is that even though we always talk about preseason games, they're overrated, you don't need them. I was thinking about all these rookies, like someone who's been playing well, like John Hightower, right?
Yep.
Or even any of the running back, any rookie, Jack Driscoll, for example. And you realize that if any of them play in the season opener or at any time this season, and they get out on that field, yes, there's probably not going to be fans, but they're playing in an NFL game without anything remotely close to NFL game-like atmosphere, except for maybe the last time they played a college game, which really is a big, big, big difference. That's got to be something like when the team is putting together its list of players they want to keep, and they know. And Jim Schwartz spoke about this today. I don't know if you heard him say it, but he said there's an element of surprise here that we have to, or uncertainty that he said that we just have to account for. Meaning we have to know that
that
you're
was
just
interesting.
not 100% sure what you're going to get because we never had a real preseason environment to evaluate them.
I'll tell you what, Schwartz, I've always enjoyed him. When he's not in regular season mode, he's not as revealing or willing to give you good information.
Right.
I don't remember being this descriptive this offseason. He's been terrific. On Wednesday, he had his media briefing. He was phenomenal. I love that description. He went on because I forget the term that he used about the guy. I don't know if he said meltdown, but some guys who look good in the preseason, once they got the regular season, it was like a different thing. You know, I've likened it to AAA baseball is the preseason and training camp, and major leagues is regular season. And these kids sometimes can't hit the fastball because it's such a different pace. The pace in the regular season is faster. And you bring a good point. Sure, there won't be fans, most likely, but it doesn't change the fact that these games count. And they didn't have a preseason, Geoff. They're going from training camp. It's like they're going from AA, no AAA, to the majors. That ain't easy, man. That's hard.
No, it's going to be interesting to see. You can tell that Jim Schwartz spent his college days in the D.C. area at Georgetown.
That's where he's
Smart
from.
Guy.
Yeah.
Because he can filibuster the hell out of a question, man. And he did that today. I almost, to the point where I forget the question he was asked.
Exactly right.
It degenerated into a fantastic answer about an economics class that he took and a professor that had an interesting way of relaying a point. And you get lost in all of his anecdotes about going to college and everything and the economics that you forget what it's the point he's trying to make.
I enjoyed him.
Guy.
Yeah, I really did enjoy him. And we'll see what the defense is going to look like. You know, we've talked really since March about what their plans were. But with all these injuries, man, it might not be easy, but we'll see what happens. So you want to get started with the injury updates?
Yeah, let's go through them. Like we can't go through every single one, but obviously the important ones.
Yeah.
Miles Sanders, we talked about it last podcast. He's several weeks in now to what was a hamstring strain, and Doug Peterson said he's day to day. It sure sounds like to me, Adam. I don't know if you have anything different on it, but that they've done what they can. You mentioned the shadow drills. I'm still expecting that he's good. He should be good to go for the opener unless he has a setback.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The way it's explained to me is that he was always going to be fine. When you have a hamstring strain, you got to be careful with running backs. Mm-hmm. And when I watched him last Wednesday, I didn't even know that he'd be doing anything. I just thought he would just be standing on the sidelines like he had been. But obviously he progressed enough. There was never any concern with him being ready for week one. But here's the issue. There is one issue. Mm-hmm. He'll have been down for about 4 weeks, I'd say, by the time week one comes and practices. You got warm weather. I'm sure it's going to be warm in Washington. We'll obviously check the forecast. But it's typically in September. As we know, out east, it's warm. He's missed a lot of time. He's come back from, as you and I know, a hamstring strain. Is a guy who's had this before. You got to be careful. You don't need to overwork him. They have 2 other backs that they're excited about. Well, 2. Right. I think you and I would probably agree they're going to keep just the 2 guys, Scott and Clement, unless they sign a veteran. But you don't want to overwork him the first game back. I'd said for fantasy, you play him like you normally would. I would, as long as as you just said, he didn't have a setback. But you have to set realistic expectations for the player when he's been down for a while. Don't think and Washington's got a really good front, and the Eagles have a lot of injuries on their offensive line. Don't think he's lighting up week one. I don't. I'm playing him. Again, this show's dropping Thursday. 10 days before the first game. We'll have updates throughout the week, next week, on how he's doing. Mm-hmm. But for the biggest thing about fantasy is, you should be excited about your players, but don't start thinking the guy's going to be like lighting up his first game when he's been down for a while. Oh, by the way, we should mention, before we move on to the other injuries, we did an Inside the Birds television with John Hansen from fantasypoints.com. You must listen to this. This was phenomenal.
Fantastic stuff.
Yeah, this is really good stuff. John gives sleepers, busts, guys he likes, guys he doesn't like for the season. Great storytelling. We all laughed. It was a really good hour of fun. So check it out on our YouTube page.
Yeah, I mean, it's that time of the year for drafts too. So there was a lot of
I'm in a bunch
good
now.
information.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure you are. Real quick though on Miles Sanders. Now that I'm just now thinking about it, and I'm spitballing a little.
Good.
We talk about last year how he missed all of the OTAs and minicamps from the hamstrings. In December, he came out with either an ankle or foot. I forget what it was. It was an ankle. Now he's got hamstrings again. Are we starting to see Miles and wonder about his ability to hold up for 16 games now that he is the 3-down back?
Well, okay. So, one of the things when I did the Carlos Hyde story is that my understanding was that they wanted to have an answer for if Sanders couldn't play, they wanted a physical back who could handle volume. Well, they don't have that guy behind Sanders. And we could talk all we want about how much we think Boston Scott and the Eagles like him. We're talking about if you had to go into a game with Boston Scott as your starter and Clement as the backup and whoever they would sign off the practice squad if they didn't have a veteran, you could get away with it.
Right.
But if he were to suffer an injury, be out 6 to 8 weeks, you don't have an answer. Period. End of story. That I try to convince people that they just don't want to listen. The people would ask me on Twitter. Well, I don't generally get into Eagles talk on Twitter anymore. I really don't. Rarely do I get into it. But I've saved it for our show and our message board on Facebook. I love the guys on that page. They're really intelligent talk where I could actually explain it, where people don't start coming at me with a bunch of nonsense. But
there's no such thing as winning an argument on Twitter.
Twitter, I know. It's something stupid. Why would I get an argument?
It's just defending yourself and defending yourself.
Yeah, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. I'd rather talk with intelligent people who really like football and want to listen.
Right.
And when it comes to Sanders, I try to warn people, you can't just assume that a guy, and you just said it very well, that a running back in his first year as a starter is going to stay healthy for 16 games. It's just not – it's not prudent. Clement has been a nice story on a comeback trail here, but we're not to the regular season yet. You don't know how long he's going to last. He's had significant injury history. He's had 2 surgeries over the last 2 seasons. Knee and it might have been labrum. I can't remember now, to be honest with you. I don't remember what it was. It was shoulder and knee. But fact of the matter is, to move on here from Sanders, you make a great point here. I had not thought of it the way that you described it, but it is true. Now, but here's the thing, though. I suspect he could have practiced during the OTAs because remember, it was 2 months he didn't do anything, but they were being smart about it. He was a rookie, and they weren't. When you have strains on both hamstrings, you're not going to put the guy back until at least he's healed. But it got to be a point, Geoff. Why would you bring him back when he's just recovering from it? Just let him get right, and that was a smart thing by their medical staff because you saw how well he did in training camp. So that's that one. Let's move on to Jalen Reagor. What do you know about him?
Well, nothing's changed really. I mean, he's got the
That's a
small
good thing.
labrum tear. Yeah, that is a good thing for now. And look, the one thing people ask, or I notice, Adam, is that you find when the injury was, and you start doing the 4-week countdown. Well, he should be ready for this week. But you always have to remember, everybody heals differently. So with a strain, 4 weeks is just a generic timetable because that's usually when it's around. It doesn't mean it can't be 3 weeks. Doesn't mean it can't be 5 weeks. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
All the information I've got is that he was feeling much better the day after. The swelling was down, and that there's no reason to think it's going to be any longer, and maybe it could be shorter. So we'll have to see. Now, season opener, that's 2 weeks. I don't from the injury. I don't know if that's viable. Week 2, maybe. I think we just need to see how it heals and progresses on a day-to-day and week basis.
Yeah, I have heard he's doing well. Like anytime you have this type of injury, you've labeled it what, a tear in his leg, a very small tear,
a small tear in the labrum.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, shoulder labrum. So I've heard he's doing okay with it. It's got he feels better. It obviously when you first suffer it, you're in pain or whatever you want to call it, but he's doing better. So that's a problem though for week 1 because we're for right now we're going to assume he can't play, right? Correct? We're going to
Well, let me just add real quick to this because I think it's an important point. If it were a playoff game at the end of the year and he had the same exact injury, do I think that they would put him out there and play? Let's say 2 weeks have gone by and not the full 4, and he felt good enough to be able to catch, kind of like T.O. in the Super Bowl, right? Yeah, I think he would, but. He's a rookie. He's a first-round pick. They have a lot invested in him for not just now, but the future. And it's the first game, not the last game, not the playoffs. So the point is, some people might be able to play through this. I think Alshon Jeffrey played through a similar type of injury, right? He had a shoulder injury the Super Bowl year that he wound up having repaired.
Yeah, was it? Exactly. Right after Super. Yeah.
Right.
And he was dead. Now he had the full surgery, but
right. He's trying to win. Yeah. He's trying to win a Super Bowl. He got himself he was trying to get a contract, which he got.
That's right.
So
Good
the
point.
Eagles are not going, if Jalen's feeling good, like 85%, they're still not going to put him out there in the season open. They want him to be 100%. Because they don't want this to be recurring. They don't want to carry it through the year. They want him to be
but it's not like it's going to go away. It's just what happens is the soreness goes down to the point where you go, you know what, I can play with this. I get what you're saying.
But I don't think it's going to need surgery in the offseason.
No, I didn't say that. But what I'm saying is, it's not like it's going to heal on its own. You could strengthen it, but through rehab. But it just has to get to the point where he says, I'm fully functional. I can do what I need to do. It might be sore, whatever. So we'll keep tabs on that one. But look, that one was that was a wild one, man, on a tackle I was trying to make on an interception.
Yeah, and don't kill people. Shouldn't kill the kid or the coaches for making a tackle in training camp. You've got to hit and tackle in this game.
He's doing the right. By the way, he's doing the right thing.
Yeah, he's a rookie. If he doesn't do that, let's remember how people treated Zach Ertz when Zach Ertz didn't block. Was it Vontaze Perfect against the Bengals? All right, and listen. I know that's a real game, and this is training camp. But if you don't do it instinctively, then you're not going to do it instinctively during a game. So you want him to be instinctive. Yeah.
Very good. Very fair point. Just an update on Dallas Goedert. Here's what happened. So we know that he had a hairline fracture in his, I believe it was his left thumb.
Right.
But nevertheless, what happened was the media saw him back at practice with the taped and half casted. I'm told he will actually, after that, maybe after a couple of days, he actually wound up having surgery on it. That, I believe, is why he missed some practice time, because it was kind of odd. I'm like, wait a minute. He was just practicing. It actually looked pretty good.
Right.
The Wednesday practice at NovaCare, I was surprised about how many reps he was taking, because the Monday, 2 days before that, he wasn't barely taking any reps. And then he didn't practice for a bit. So I'm told that he actually had surgery on it as just a follow-up. So he'll be fine. And then the one that popped up on Wednesday, Geoff, which means he probably got hurt in Tuesday's practice, was Will Parks with a hamstring. Is that what you saw out there?
That's what the reports are, a hamstring injury, and not a mild one, it doesn't seem, because the reports are 4 to 6 weeks. So this really throws a monkey wrench.
That's a bad strain. That could be a grade 3.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. Yeah, a grade 2 hamstring strain could be as little as 2 weeks, as many as 4, somewhere in that area.
Right.
A grade 3, this is what, by the way, Darren Sproles had that some years ago. But unfortunately, that one took longer than it should have.
It sure did.
Anyway, which we actually talked about 2 years ago on our show, I think. God, that's just how long we've been doing this show.
It took about 2 years for him to recover from it.
That was way longer. Yeah, exactly. So here's my question to follow up on this with Parks. You and I both know he's going to have a significant role, and will when he's healthy.
Yeah.
But who the hell knows when he's coming back? I mean, this is not a good. It's a bad injury, so he's obviously week to week.
Right.
You had reported on our show first 3 weeks ago. I'm saying, and I was not aware of this. You had a really good. You had your sleeper note. You said Marcus Epps is really doing well, and I had it on my list to find out what he was doing well. Well, here's the thing with Marcus Epps, and even without Parks' injury, he was their fourth safety. Remember, he was with the team last year. He was claimed off waivers from the Vikings. He did a really good job considering. He had to learn the defense on the fly in season. That meant a lot to their coaching staff, that he handled it, the mental gymnastics of trying to learn a defense on the fly. That is really hard to do. I don't know how you do that.
Not easy.
He did it. He did a good job, a fairly good job. It wasn't perfect. He made some mistakes, but he showed that he could learn it. And he's been one of their better stories at camp. So he's well above Kayvon Wallace. Like, it's not even a discussion. Epps has been, as you discussed, and I had heard further, that he's been one of the better stories.
Yeah.
The only question is, when will Wallace be ready to play on defense? I don't have that answer. I mean, he's in the – remember this, folks. Every rookie in the National Football League is going through this. Particularly the latter round picks were not expected to play much this season. The hope for Wallace is eventually to be a starter down to year 2 or 3. But when you don't have May and June OTAs and you don't have a preseason, And remember, Geoff and I had outlined, for those of you who have been with us, you know this, but for those of you who are listening to us for the first time the last couple of times, Geoff and I did a show where we were breaking down what the defense is going to look this season, and we made it very clear there are going to be some subtle changes on defense. They're running a wide 9. No one's saying they're not, and they're still a 43 defense. But on the back end, they're going to do some cool stuff. Well, that's not easy for Wallace when he didn't have an offseason. So I don't know that he'll dress every week. I can't. I don't know much about Wallace in terms of – I know about him at Clemson, but I didn't know a lot about him in training camp other than he's got a learning curve to make. So I wouldn't fret on that. It's just that Epps has been one of their better stories on defense, and not a lot has been written or said about him, but Geoff and I have been on this, especially Geoff from day one. So he's been a good story, and I would fully expect him right now to be that third safety. Now the hybrid linebacker one, I don't know that. I don't know if Epps will be doing that, but he's the third safety.
Yeah, no, they're going to have to figure some things out for that nickel or dime package that involves somebody coming into the box. You're right. McLeod's going to be your deep safety. Jalen is more of a coverage guy, you think? I mean, he can come into the box and tackle. Looks to me like he's bulked up just a little bit to play the position. I wouldn't be surprised by that. But Will Parks really, they were hoping could be a little bit of a Swiss Army knife. And I don't think that that's what they see out of Marcus Epps. And you start to talk about teams that'll pound. I expect Washington to try to run the football a decent amount. They've got a young quarterback.
They're going to have to.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not like they got a great stable of running backs, but
they're light on pass targets. They're light. Yeah. They're severely light on pass targets. Other than the great Terry McLaurin who burned the Eagles last year twice, they just don't have enough pass targets. So it's funny. We're not doing week 1 review here, but what I would leave you with this with watching Philly in that game. Just one thing to think about. For the Eagles' beat-up defense, and we're talking about the guys who are hurt. We'll get to when we do our 53-man roster. If you're going to play an offense that doesn't have a lot of help, this is the week 1. If you're the Eagles, would be the week to play them, because the Eagles have injury issues, and then you see the other stuff. So the other challenges that they have. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, that's this injury. Will Parks came at a bad time for them, but we'll have to see how they make do. All right, we are going to get into our 53-man roster. I look forward to that. How do you feel like we should do this, Adam? Do you want to do your 53-man roster first and then mine, or should we do your offense and my offense? I mean, we could take this in so many different directions.
Well, yeah. You want me to get started? You want to get started?
Yeah, we'll go through your. Let me just first say, remind everybody to go to statesidevodka.com for 10% off the best vodka out there with the promo code BIRDS on pickup or delivery. That's right. They deliver to the counties of Philadelphia, Chester, Delaware, Montgomery, Bucks, Westmoreland, or Allegheny. All right. So make sure you go to Stateside Vodka for 10% off and use the promo code BIRDS. Let's start with offense, Adam. We'll start with quarterback. I think it's relatively simple, but I think that there's a statement to be made there. So you have your 3 quarterbacks, I assume it's normal?
Yep.
All right, Carson Wentz, Nate Sudfeld, Jalen Hurts.
Yep.
The big thing here is, and I think we were making this point last podcast, after several years now of either Nick Foles or Josh McCown last year, the Eagles are really kind of going into an offseason without a real veteran quarterback. I know Nate Sudfeld's been with the team for 4 years now, but he's not veteran the way you think of Nick Foles and the way you think of Josh McCown. So I think this is kind of interesting.
It is. And quite frank, it's funny. Speaking of Sudfeld, the Eagles, as we reported 3 months ago, I can't remember what the hell one it was. It might have been June. More to May. I know it was around after the draft, but the Eagles were on Joe Flacco. The Eagles had a lot of interest in him, but they just were not sure about physically when he'd be ready. And they did want to bring Nate back. They want to see it through for a 4th year. But I could tell you Flacco's doing real well, and he's throwing well, and he's close to being ready. But Nate, the Eagles obviously hope they don't have to play him because they want Wentz to be healthy. But as you said, it is his 4th year. He knows this offense called. He's got all the ability. He's got the size, the arm strength. He's improved as an athlete. His athletic numbers, I'm told, have been really good since 17 in terms of all the way you measure a quarterback. He's improved in every area, but he's got that one issue about pulling the trigger, and he's got to get better with it, and that's just the way it is.
All right. Well, they are going in with Wentz, Sudfeld, and Hurts, according to you and probably me.
Yes.
Same thing with mine. Running backs. This is another.
This is a tough one, man.
Yeah, because we are in agreement on this. 3 running backs. You have Miles Sanders, Boston Scott, Corey Clement, and nobody else. And I couldn't have predicted going into camp that they would only keep 3. I can't remember the last time the Eagles only kept 3 running backs, but it looks like these are the only ones that deserve to be on the team.
Well, remember, too, that on game day, you could call up 2 players. Do they have the new rule this year?
Right.
So now that's another issue that the Eagles have. They have so many injuries. It's not like they're all at one position. They're all like spread out. So I hinted on our last couple of shows that none of the young kids are probably going to make it. They just have not stood out. They've all had their moments, but none of them have shown enough to be on the roster. And I just feel like, Geoff, that the Eagles are going to have to sign a veteran. This is something that when I found out about Carlos Hyde, it matched what I'd thought, that if Sanders got hurt, where are they going? Short term versus long term. Boston Scott's been a nice story. Corey Clement and Boston Scott for 1 or 2 games can handle it. But if they need a fill in for 4 to 6 weeks, it's a problem. They don't have an answer.
Right. I agree with you. I'm surprised that some of people hit us up on the message board wondering if the Eagles were going to claim Leonard Fournette off waivers when we've already talked about the fact that they are not putting any money into running back, but any legit money into running back. So we'll have to see what they do with a veteran. I think, to your point, it's probably somebody who's been in the league for a little bit and is going to be cut, on the cut down day.
Veteran.
And then, veteran who gets claimed. So we'll see who's out there. So a lot of times these guys who become available, you just didn't see it coming. So it'll be interesting to see what they do.
Yeah, it's got to be a guy who's got size. They're not signing like a 180-pound guy. I think it's going to be a guy that has size. So that would be running back. Now, receiver was one where this is the first one where I go, this might have taken me 10 minutes. I just couldn't make a decision. I can imagine how tough it is for front offices, because here's the thing. Okay, I got 6.
Right.
D-Jax, Jeffrey, I'm taking off PUP. Though I doubt he's ready week 1. But if you think he could come back within 6 weeks, even if it's the first week of October, don't keep him on PUP. Take him off.
Right.
Jalen Reagor, who we know is probably not playing week 1. John Hightower's had a great camp. Greg Ward, who also had a great camp, and J.J. Arcega-Whiteside really improved. Here's the problem, Geoff.
Yep.
Only 4 are healthy,
and one's a rookie.
Right. I struggle with this because here's the problem. Well, here it's not as big a problem as I thought when I worked it out. Remember, they're going to be heavy 12 personnel.
Right.
So they dress D-Jax, Hightower, Ward, Arcega-Whiteside. D-Jax is your Z, Arcega-Whiteside is your X, Hightower could be your X, and Ward is obviously your slot. And you've got the ability to kind of refunction Goedert a little bit in the slot if you need to. You could get away with it for 1 game, I think. You also have the ability to sign one of the receivers off your practice squad. I struggled with Burnett because I know he flashed every practice. This is the tough one. This is one where but the problem is, Geoff, they got issues on defense with injuries. This is where it gets to be really difficult. So let me ask you a question. To give a hint out, how many receivers did you keep, and who did you keep?
All right. Well, I have to first be honest with you and the listeners here. I have my 53-man, and we were the same on quarterback and running back. But I have 55 names on my 53-man roster because I got stuck. I have to trim 2 off, and I don't know where I can do it because I've already feel like I've trimmed off some names who deserve to make it. And I kept 7 receivers, okay? And my logic for that was it's not going to be 7 all year, but you need that for week 1 because as we just talked about, you only have 4 healthy ones, and 1 is rookie John Hightower. So I kept everybody you said, Jackson Reagor, Jeffrey Whiteside, Ward, and Hightower. But I also kept and I also added Deontay Burnett. He's had a great camp. He's reliable. He was on the team last year. He knows the offense. And I felt like they would need him if they were to have some major injuries in that game. If a couple of guys were to leave, they would need Deontay Burnett. But now that you mentioned, does he have practice squad? He can be a practice squad veteran, right?
Yes.
So maybe I should take him off and put him in that category of guys who can be called up on game day from the practice squad.
He would be perfect. So what happens? He has to be waived.
Right.
So he and by the way, Watkins. See, I couldn't. Watkins was not as good as Hightower. So I just don't have room for Watkins. There's too many issues with injuries.
Mm-hmm.
If I had my druthers, if they didn't have a big injury issue on both sides of the football, I'd keep either Watkins or Burnett and play them. You would have one of them be active week 1, and they may, as you said, this is a good point. If they clear waivers and go to the practice squad, you sign them, you add them to the 53 man on game day, because you got it. It's hard to only dress 4 receivers. It's hard. You can do it. They've done it before, but it's kind of tricky.
All right, you just helped me. I only now have one guy left that I have to trim on my 53 man, because now I'm down to 54. I'm putting Burnett. I'm assuming he's going to clear waivers. You can bring him back to your practice squad, and he'd be someone you call up for the opener. So now we can move on. Well, before we move on, I agree with you on Watkins. Manasseh Bailey and Travis Fulgham were guys that we really liked. They're
he's fast as hell. Manasseh Bailey's funny. Like, I went to the Morgan State website. They had him listed as 6'1". If he's 6'1", I'm 6'7". He's I think he's just under 5'11" or 5'11", but he's quick. He is fast. He's just he could run, but they have a numbers issue. This is I feel so bad for these players. I'm not him in terms of making the roster, but had they not had this injury issue from both sides of the football, maybe guys like Bailey would have had a shot, but he had no shot because they have too many challenges.
Right. All right, let's go on to tight end. Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert. And we've talked about this. You have Noah Togiai, and I have Noah Togiai. And I keep saying, they could cut Noah Togiai. They don't need 3 tight ends. But then again, if you want to be a 12 personnel team, you probably should have a backup tight end for that.
Well, they were dancing with fire last year when they had the 2 tight ends and didn't have a third. They did some weeks. I don't know. They had Josh Perkins last year at some point, but that's dancing with fire there. You got to be careful. So and Togiai showed that he's got enough ability. We'll see if he makes it or not, but he's done enough to earn a real shot from their personnel staff to sit down and go, do we need to keep this guy on here? I get he was an undrafted free agent, but he's been a good story. They've done very well over the years with undrafted free agents.
Right.
So I have 3 making it. Right now I've got 3 quarterbacks, 3 running backs, 6 receivers. Unfortunately, 2 are hurt.
Right.
Again, I have Jeffrey on the 53 man. If by the way, they have till 4 p.m. on Saturday to activate him off PUP. If they don't, he's on reserve PUP. He has to miss at least 6 weeks. So they better be sure if he's off that. As I've heard, they felt pretty good about his progress, but he has also not have any setbacks. See, the thing about Jeffrey is, let's say for argument's sake that he's not on PUP to start the season. Whenever he practices, that he's got to feel good the next day. Like, that's a bad injury. Like, he is around the 15th of September will be exactly 9 months. That is really on the short end. Like that, you typically don't see players with this injury come back with the full-blown Liz Frank surgery. Typically don't see him come back before 9 months. This is pretty good. Give him credit. I've heard he's worked his ass off to come back, but
that's great.
They could use him, man. He's experienced. There's no question they could use him.
All right, so we are identical because you convinced me to put Burnett not on the team. So I got 3 quarterbacks.
Right. Yeah, but wait a
backs.
minute. That's not right.
What do you mean it's not right?
Our see, it's funny. So if you go to our Facebook, but if you go to our Facebook, I know you were struggling. I on Wednesday, Geoff and I were talking. Geoff was really struggling with 2 players. If you go to our Facebook page, they've probably like 80 people already posted them. I've had a chance to look through a lot of them. A couple of them have them almost identical to mine. I thought it was, wow, okay, these guys are smarter than I am. Nice job. I love their explanations. They're going just like you and I are struggling with it. They're going through the same stuff. I think it's phenomenal.
Let's move on to offensive linemen.
Yeah, good.
I've looked at your names. Okay. Guess what? I got the same ones.
Yeah, I mean,
Jason
that one's
Peters.
easy.
Yeah, well, I guess so. I guess for depth, you might think about keeping one. But
who are we going to keep as the ninth though?
No, I mean, if you were going to keep a ninth, I thought maybe Luke Juriga would make it just because I know they liked him, but it's not necessary. They've got their backups.
Opeta or Juriga. Yeah, I
or
think
Opeta.
Juriga
Yeah.
That was actually that one. I thought that was the easiest, other than quarterback, obviously on offense.
Right.
I struggled
we'll
mightily
go through the
on
names
receiver,
for the people.
Go
ahead and go through the names. You do it.
Peters, Lane Johnson, Sayamalo, Kelsey, Pryor, Driscoll, Herbig, Mailata.
All right. There you go. Yeah, that's what we got. Herbig obviously can play center. Jack Driscoll, I am convinced, is going to see time this year, Adam. And not because they're just going to award him a job, but I think that there might be, we've seen the offensive line get banged up.
Done a good job. They're not awarding him. When you say award, he's earned it. He's actually, if we ranked who's above the curve of the rookies, it's Reagor, it's Driscoll, it's Sean Bradley, though it's iffy because they got a numbers problem.
Right.
I know those guys have been really good, good. Where I'm not saying Bradley's definitely making the roster, but I just know from talking to some personnel people around the league, not a lot of teams did not have a draftable grade on him just because he's kind of limited. I know we're not doing linebackers right now, but just to give an example. But the good thing is he's been a good story. Like he's been like, wow, he's very better than you thought. So that's a good thing.
That is a good thing. And I like it because I remember writing before the training camp that I thought the kid had a shot because of he was very athletic. He comes from Auburn. They have a lot of RPOs and their spread offense. The Gus Malzahn offense is kind of it's a movement type offense, and we know what the Eagles want to do this year. So I thought Driscoll would be a really good fit.
He's been great. I mean, he not only has been running with twos, I think he got first team reps during the scrimmage because I think Lane didn't practice, obviously. Lane Johnson didn't practice. Because Peters took limited reps. I just remember it might either was right tackle guard. I don't remember. But he definitely got twos that he's gotten before. But I may be wrong about that. What my eyes saw with my binoculars, but nevertheless, he's been a great story, and they kind of knew what he would be as a swing tackle, right tackle guard. But he may wind up someday being a starting guard. Who knows? We'll see.
All right, so that would be 23 players on offense. Correct. If that goes according to Hoyle right there. So that's a pretty good number. You got to get to. It's usually in that mid-20 range right there for offense. All right, next we're going to do our defense. First, I want to remind everyone it is everybody's favorite time of the year, and it's right around the corner. That's right, football is about to be back, and to celebrate football's 101st year, DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook, is putting new users in the center of action with a free $101 bet when they place a bet on the Kansas City versus Houston Tuesday night game. This Thursday touchdown night. Of a deal. I'm sorry, Thursday night game. That's right. I was just excited. I wanted it on Tuesday. This touchdown of a deal is only available for 101 hours. So get in on all of the action now. You heard us right. DraftKings is giving all new users a free bet of $101 once they sign up and place a bet of $10 or more on the Kansas City versus Houston game. And if you're new to DraftKings Sportsbook, you just head to the app now to check out all the great promotions and odd boosts that they also offer. DraftKings Sportsbook is safe, secure, and reliable, located right here in the US of A, so it's easy to deposit and withdraw your money at your convenience. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code ITB to get a free $101 bet to use once you place a bet on the first football game of the year. That's promo code ITB to get your free $101 bet for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Got to be 21, Pennsylvania only, in partnership with Meadows Racetrack and Casino. Other terms and conditions and restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, let's get to the defense, Adam. So if we had 23 players on offense, and we know about the three specialists, the kicker, the punter, and the long snapper, then math tells me that we've got 27 defensive players.
Correct. Now, let me explain. Let's get to defensive end. Here's where another one. My biggest struggle in offense was wide receiver.
Right.
I had different scenarios, but we'll see what happens there. I think I have the right one, but time will tell. We actually we got to give a prize out to our faithful message board people. Whoever gets the closest, if they beat us, we're hooking them up. As a matter of fact, we're gonna get them on one of our shows. We're gonna have them on. If they beat us, we're getting them on our show. Come on.
All right.
Yeah, we got to do it. So defense, I got Graham at the end. Graham, Barnett. I don't know that he's playing week 1, but Barnett, Vinny Curry, Josh Sweat, Sharif Miller. This is so hard. This one, I was like, this one was tough. Josh Sweat, obviously, he was terrific. Sharif Miller, Joe Osman. Now, here's where I struggle. Barnett has this ankle injury. I don't know if he's ready week 1. I don't know how many snaps he could handle. We know Jannard Avery won't be ready for week 1. Okay. Right. So I don't know when he's going to be ready. He's not out 2 months, but he might not be ready for 4 to 6 weeks. So maybe he's ready in 3 weeks. I don't know, but I don't know that he even makes the team. So I put him on there because they gave up a 4th round pick for this player. Now he's hurt. So I don't know their thought process of how was he doing before he got hurt. I know that, you kind of know what his package would have been 10, 12 plays if he makes the team, if he didn't get hurt, because he's different from anybody they have. He's fast. So right now I have him on the roster. I certainly could cut him. I certainly could go if I lose him, I could go, I would add a receiver that I didn't want to cut like Burnett.
Right.
So, or Watkins, probably Burnett. I think Burnett would be ahead of Watkins in my view. So that's where I struggled. Now, here's another thing I struggle with. Osman over Tuhill. Osman has been with them now for 3 years. We know that we said June of 19 he was going to make the team. We put that on a show. We kind of knew how they felt about him. And had he not tore his ACL, he would have made it and had a role. Now, I know he's not quite back to where he was before he suffered the ACL injury, but he's close. If you want it, folks, if you want to put Osman, if you want to put Tuhill on there, I got no problem with it because he had a great camp. When I say great, the final 2 weeks, he went from super below the line to talking. Now he's in the conversation to make it. Now he's been so good. You're like, you know what? How do we justify it? With Barnett's injury and Avery's injury, right now, Geoff, for week 1, you've got Graham, Curry, Sweat is 3, Sharif Miller 4. Are the healthy guys? We're assuming Miller's on it. He should.
Right.
They need to give him time to develop. Miller's really never played before, so you got a problem at defensive end for week 1 with these injuries.
Well, it's so interesting. Osman, if he doesn't make it, he'll have gone from making the team last year to getting unseated by a 7th round pick just a year later.
He wasn't drafted, though. Osman wasn't drafted.
No, I know that, but that was a testament to how good or how much the coaching staff thought of him, that he was going to make the team, and not just make the team, Adam. We've said, you've reported this last year especially, he was going to have a role. They wanted to move him around. They wanted to do things with him almost like a joker because of how versatile he is. And now we're talking about the fact that Casey Tuhill might make it over him, and we know darn well that even if Tuhill makes the team, it's very unlikely that I would think he would be active right from the start. Don't you think he'd probably be active?
It's a good question. I thought about that when I put Tuhill over Osman at first, then I changed it to Osman because Osman has been with them for 3 years now, and he knows the defense.
Right.
It's a tough call. See, that's the thing about week 1. Where could you get away with going later against a bad Redskins team, though they have a great defensive front, but their offense is going to have trouble scoring? And where do you need a rotation because the weather's going to be warm? You need to have that. Now, you have the option of having Malik Jackson have some snaps at the end. We know that's going to happen at some point. Could be in week 1, but here's the problem there. Let's get the defensive tackle. We know Cox is on, Hargrave, Malik Jackson, Ridgeway. Here's the problem. Hargrave, you reported first that he had a pectoral injury, that he suffered it lifting weights, right?
Yep.
We don't know. He's not practiced. He has a pectoral strain. We don't know if he's playing week 1. And if he does, Geoff, and Jim Schwartz talked about it in his press conference, he's missed a lot of time. How much does he know? How much does he not know? I don't know.
Right. I don't know. I think it's his conditioning's not going to be there. I would like to think that if he can play, they'll get him in for a little bit. I mean, my God, he was their big free agent prize. You know, I mean, if you count Slay as just an as a trade and not a free agent signing. This was their free agent signing. So I got to think that they want to get him on the field as long as he's healthy. But you're right, his conditioning's not going to be there. I'm with you. I have 4 defensive tackles. Normally, I think in the last year or two, the Eagles have gone a little deeper. But with the issues that they have at other positions, I don't think – and the strength here that they have with Cox, Jackson, Hargrave, who will eventually be healthy, and Ridgeway. I mean, Ridgeway has played well for them. So the fact that he's their 4th defensive tackle, and as you mentioned, Vinny can move inside and play DT in the pass rush, they don't need to keep 4, right?
Right. That's where I mean,
that's right. They don't need to keep 5. They keep 4.
Right, correct. Good. Right. So
we are lockstep because I kept Osman too.
Okay. It would not surprise me at all if they cut Avery or put him on IR, and then designate him to return. Let him get his knee right. I mean, he's got, I'm told, a slight knee sprain, and he's got that bone bruise. And bone bruises could be 4 or 5 weeks. So, and then Barnett, I just don't know. He's missed so much time, Geoff. He missed just about all of training camp, or most of it for sure. So, they got an issue. This is the hardest it's ever been for me to do the Eagles 53. I don't remember them coming out of a preseason, with so many injuries. And it's not, people want to beat up their medical staff. I didn't respond on Twitter. People were beating up their medical staff. I'll just address it here. The people have to understand it's going to happen. Guys are going to get hurt. You're going to have muscle strains. This happens. And I know that they think their sports science department is pretty good. But you can't prevent, like the Gennard Avery injury, which I saw happen 20 feet in front of me. There's nothing you can do about that. That's not anyone's fault.
Right.
The convenient excuse for there's a small part of the Eagles Twitter that is always negative. They want to blame everybody. Some of it's founded, a little bit of it. Some of it, now I'm not talking about injuries, but I'm talking about some of the criticism every once in a while is actually pretty good.
Yeah.
But it's so overtly negative, like they just want to blame everyone. They want everybody fired.
Right.
I mean, how many medical staffs do you need? It's like, look, they've spared no expense. I know for a fact they think they have the best sports science department. It doesn't mean you can't prevent every injury. Sports science will be good with hydration and nutrition and making sure your muscles are properly trained and all that stuff. But you can only prevent so much.
Right.
There's only such a small percentage you could prevent or help prevent. The rest of it is up to Mother Nature. So I just think, just calm down a little bit. I get it. People are frustrated. I get it. Geoff and I get it, folks. I've seen it. I've looked at it. I'm taking it into account when people are saying it. But I just think people need to be fair here and not just go off the deep end and start throwing knives at people. It's a little bit too strong for me. I'm like, oh my God, well, come on, man. Anyway.
Understood. I originally had to add to this. I originally had Anthony Rush on as a 5th defensive tackle, and I had 12 defensive linemen. But because I was over, I convinced myself that they're fine with 5, and so I had the same 11 defensive linemen that you had, and I also had the same struggle between Sharif Miller, Joe Osman, and Casey Toohill. Two for those are 3 guys for 2 spots, and I also went with Miller and Osman. I just didn't think they were going to cut Sharif.
Well. Here's the thing: if Avery is off the roster, Toohill makes it, and
I would think so.
And then what they can do before we get to linebackers, they could week 1 against Washington because they have a real numbers issue on both sides of the football. You can't keep everybody because of the injury stuff. They're going to have to make some tough calls. Curry could give them snaps at D tackle, which he's done for several years, as we know.
Right.
And they're just going to have to live with it. And Graham, by the way, has done that before in nickel. Yeah. So it just depends on how you want to do it. I cannot wait to – I need to go through all of them on our Facebook group. I really want to take a look at the analysis of our I love it when it's really good stuff. Our people really know their stuff, man. It's pretty impressive. So let's go to linebacker.
All right, this is the first area where I think no matter what's said, you and I are going to have a different set here. And really one guy.
I wanted Singleton on the roster. And quite frankly, my feeling for 3 or 4 weeks has been they have no experience behind Gary, Riley, and Edwards. Not that they're playing base. They'll play base of 30% of the time. But you need – I know Sean Bradley's been a nice story. I don't believe he's ready. Just the information gathering I've had with him, everything's been good. You love the kid. He's smart and all that. but he's very limited in terms of a skill set. There's only so much you can give him. You really need to have Alex Singleton, who's been with a team before. But it's Davion Taylor can't go anywhere. You can't cut. He's just a run pick. He's not getting cut.
Right, but he's not playing.
Now what's that?
He's not playing on defense.
I get that, but you're totally right. But you can cut Bradley. Maybe he doesn't get here's what I would do. If I could do it over again, I would keep Singleton and cut Bradley. That's what I would do. And take your chances. But the kid, he's a positive guy. He's a great locker room guy. You want to have him on your roster. I was talking to, I have a pretty good football source. And this person said to me, he goes, Philly is going to love this kid. If you don't follow the Temple program, he's exactly what you want, but he's still a late round pick. And I don't know how much he could help them. So if I could do it over again, I would keep Singleton and cut Bradley, but we'll see what they do.
All right. Well, you kept Gary, Riley, TJ Edwards, Sean Bradley, Davion Taylor. I have all those 5, and I am keeping Alex Singleton. So
all right. 6. I got to hear this. Where the hell are you going lighter?
Well, I feel like we're already light with 3 running backs, and well, let's see when we get into the defensive backfield, because we may have a little bit of a disagreement there. Just know, we're just taking our best stabs. So,
sure.
All right. So let's go to cornerback. You at cornerback have Darius Slay, Avonte Maddox, Nickel Roby-Coleman, Crayvon LeBlanc, and Craig James. And I, my friend, have the same exact 5. Slay, Maddox, Coleman, LeBlanc, James, which means you and I either have really good instincts or know something, or we should just talk about the fact that Sidney Jones and Rasul Douglas, neither of us kept.
Now, I could be wrong on Douglas, okay? I again, we have a numbers issue.
Yeah.
Douglas is a guy that knows the defense. He's long. You like that. You and I have talked this offseason. Maddox is 5'9". He also, by the way, I should add this, he has shorter arms, okay, than you'd like. Nicole Roby-Coleman is 5'7" and 0.2 of an inch. Crayvon LeBlanc is smaller. James is average size for corner. Sidney's at 5'11", 6 feet, and Rasul Douglas is 6'1". I would keep one of those guys. No, I'm going to I could be wrong. I'm not reporting anything on Sidney Jones being traded. I just have him traded because you'd rather trade. If you're not going to keep him, you'd rather trade him than cut him. Obviously, he's a former second-round pick.
Sure.
I just have – it's a numbers issue, man. Now again, you could cut Osman. You go with 60 ends instead of 7. And take that chance, but you've got Barnett and Avery with injuries. You can cut Avery, and you could keep Jones or Douglas. We're going to be wrong here. There's just we don't have access to exact thinking. No one does. It's just logic. But this folks, these issues on both sides of football because of injury present such problems as a numbers game. What can you get away with? What can't you get away with as a game planner? And as a front office staff, and that's where you guys they have to communicate and get on the same page.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I don't know what's going to happen with Sidney Jones, but I just feel like the 5 corners we're listing, Slay, Maddox, Roby-Coleman, LeBlanc, and James, give them the best chance to succeed. James is going to be a good special teamer. He is a good special teamer. And he did come in last year and make that really important pass breakup against in the end zone in the Green Bay game against – I want to say Devontae Adams, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, exactly. It was an overtime game, right?
Yeah, and I think that's when Sidney Jones was supposed to be in. Nobody could find him, so Craig James went in.
Yeah, so, he did a good job. Yeah, I mean, he's the guy that they obviously had good intel on.
So the one thing people got to remember is special teams at the bottom of the roster, especially for secondary players, is so important, and that's not something Rasul and Sidney do. And so when you're looking at that 5th corner, that 4th and 5th corner, they Strap, we know can do that. Craig James, we know can do it. Have not seen that from Sidney and Rasul, and I don't think they're going to start now. So we'll see if they can get something.
LeBlanc could also play safety. He's done it before. We'll see what happens, and we'll get to the practice squad when we're done here. Safety, I've got 6. Yeah, let me explain though. Okay, McLeod, Mills, obviously Parks. Who's on the right? I mean, he shouldn't go on IR. I haven't heard that's going to happen. I guess the report was it NFL Network who had that. I didn't see it.
NFL Network said, Parks. James Palmer of NFL Network said Parks will be out 4 to 6 weeks.
Okay. So I got Marcus Epps, who's been one of the better stories of training. Kayvon Wallace, obviously, who's a fourth-round pick. Rudy Ford is not only is he one of their best special teams player, he's the fastest special teams player they have. He's a really good. Like at that role that he has, he's really good. So you have to put him at a position. He doesn't even count as a safety. It's really 5, and one of them is hurt.
Right.
Ford, you would only play. He was kind of like Chris Maragos as a safety. You're only going to play him at safety if you absolutely have to.
Right.
Maragos is a special teams guy. So, and then obviously the three specialists: Elliott, Johnston, and Lovato. And then here's my practice squad right now. This is my guess.
Hold on. I got to finish out my safeties.
Oh, I thought you were done. My bad. Sorry.
No.
Go.
So
go corner. Wait, did you do your corner? You said
I did my corners. We both have the same 5 corners. And
go safety. Go.
I was one shorter than you. I am cutting Rudy Ford, putting him back on the practice squad, and then recalling him, as you mentioned. Him and Deontay Burnett are going to be the 2 that I call up on game day because of what you said, the need. But I think 5 safeties is enough with McLeod, Mills, Parks, Wallace, and Epps. I know about Rudy Ford's speed, and that's why I think he's still going to be on the practice squad. But either that or just like you said, Ford makes it, but maybe Jannard Avery goes on IR, or somebody else that we're not mentioning here goes on IR with designation of return. Could happen.
Okay. Right. So, by the way, we both need to put this on the. Actually, I think you said we're gonna have something on this. We're gonna have a piece, but the 3 specialists, and then here are my practice squad players. Killins. I have 2 running backs. Killins because he's got really good speed. He's fun to watch. They've cross-trained him a little bit, moving him around in the slot. And then I got Mike Warren. It's either going to be Warren because they need size on the practice. So Warren or Holofield. I took Warren. It could be Holofield. Who knows?
Right.
If Burnett clears waivers, I got him. And Fulgham, I'll tell you what, that kid flashed. I know he's got to put weight on, but he's a perfect developmental player. I'm really impressed with him a couple of days that I watched him. Caleb Wilson could run. He's a playmaker. He's smaller. He looks like a glorified receiver.
Right.
And then Luke Jariga, and people have been asking us about Prince Tega Wanago. He definitely does not make the team, barring a shock. He is not ready.
No.
He's a perfect practice squad developmental player. We cut Rush and Williams off of our 53, so if they clear, we'll put them both. They're paying. They gave Raycon Williams a very good contract.
Right.
He might have it over Rush because Rush. Remember, nobody wanted Rush last year, despite the preseason he had. So maybe they sneak him through. Right now, I have Hill Noddle in my 53. Because we're putting this up on Thursday, maybe I changed my mind. But if he clears waivers, practice squad, and Alex Singleton absolutely practice squad if they do not keep him.
Yeah.
That's a tough one, man. This is the toughest one I've ever done on the Eagles, man. It's just it's too challenging.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. These injuries really, really complicated. I think the Eagles themselves would rather keep a couple of guys that we're mentioning here and just not have all these injuries. So, all right, that's going to be good.
Real quick, Brandon Brooks will go to reserve PUP. He was on active PUP.
Right.
So he misses a minimum 6 weeks. Andre Dillard injured reserve. Deshaun Hall, by the way, when he cleared waivers, you want to reserve PUP. He cannot return. If you go on reserve PUP before the initial 53-man roster, you have to be out for the season. That's the way that works.
Right.
And then when we're removing Alshon from the active PUP, they have till. By the way, they have till 4 p.m. on Saturday to remove him from PUP. If they don't, he's out 6 weeks minimum.
That's that would be a long time, more than they would like to have that for. So at the end of the day, when our 53s are done, yours and mine, the only difference between yours and mine is I've got Alex Singleton, you've got Rudy Ford. That's it, right?
Yeah, well, Chris, I talked you out of one of them.
Well, I had to be done.
That's fine. It's all good. It's all good. We'll see.
I got to. I can't forget before we get out of here to thank our friends at PHLSportsNation.com. Yes. Always enhancing the fan experience with their coverage of all four Philly sports teams like nobody else. Follow them on Twitter at PHL Sports Nation. Just go to the website PHLSportsNation.com. Great stories, great podcasts. Just a fantastic amount of content for the fan, by the fan. That's their motto, and they just do great work. We thank them for being a great partner. And let's pause now for a word from our sponsors. All right, let's so wrap this up. Again, you and I are pretty close in how we see this 53, which means that we're both probably going to be very wrong when it actually comes out. And also, it changes. Yeah. I think that's the big thing, Adam. Right? Is that
of course
you could get 53
Sunday
out of
it'll 53, change.
But then 24 hours later, after the waivers are done, then all of a sudden they're
going to claim some guy. They'll. It's highly unlikely the 53 they have on Saturday will be the same that they'll have when they start practicing. They will work Sunday and Monday. The way it works in years past is you work Sunday and Monday, you have off Tuesday, and then you get back to your regular week Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Now, that's when the guys like Miles Sanders, that's when Hargrave and the others should be working on Wednesday. If they're not, then I get concerned about Sunday. I don't care if they're limited. As long as they're working on that day, they'll be fine.
Right. Absolutely. So we will do a show Saturday again to wrap up, all the cuts, all the action, all the moves. And then what's the cool is, Adam, and I think people are going to enjoy hearing this just because of how it will resonate, is next week we start doing regular season podcast mode, which means podcast Monday, podcast Wednesday, podcast Friday. So I look forward to doing that.
Wow. Then, 3 shows. Oh my God. All right.
Yes. And I promise our listeners, they will not be an hour long each. We'll condense
No, they'll be much shorter. Yeah. We tightened the hell out of it last year, man. We had a couple were 28 minutes. We're not going to rush though. I know a couple people emailed me last year and said we were rushing. So I took that under advisement.
Yes,
and I'll make sure we don't do that. But and then we're hoping for a couple announcements where we've got a couple pretty big things planned. But it's less up to us. It's more to the people who have approached us with some things. They just have to go through with what they want to do, and we'll keep you posted. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. At Inside Birds is our Twitter feed. Obviously, Geoff and I on there, and also we have some on our Facebook group board. We actually have made some announcements. And some ideas where we think some transactions are go on there. Not that we know exactly what's going to happen. Because I don't have time on Twitter to keep going back, but I'm able to go on the board. And Geoff and I there could have discussions, and the threads sometime are like 30 deep. It's actually really cool, and I really appreciate everyone's thoughts on there. So it's cool.
Definitely. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles intel. Thanks to our producer, Hunter Brody. Check out his work on YouTube. It's called Sports Talk with Broads. And make sure you're checking out his podcast, Processed. He does it with former Villanova basketball star Darrell Reynolds. And, of course, check out Hunter on Twitter, @Broads81. And, as always, we thank you for flying with us inside the bird.